Standard Time. My name is Tammra Broughton, and I'm broadcasting live from Squamish, British Columbia, Canada, which is near Vancouver and Whistler, BC. And before I get started on what we're talking about today, I really want to say thank you to my producer, Rachel. She is like a gypsy. Every time, we're doing the show, she's somewhere new. She's a really incredible woman. And she had this vision come to her in a dream that she was going to do this live broadcasting radio show and share the voices of women. So it is our absolute honor to be here today with Rachel, helping her dreams come true. And together, I know that we are better and we are stronger. And so today our show is called, Rising in Leadership, Women as Warrioress, the Sorceress, and the Empress, with the beautiful Achintya Devi. And she's going to be going into all of that in just a moment. So first of all, let me welcome Achintya to the show.
Hi, Tammra, and everyone that's here. Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here with you and love that we're going live.
I know, it's always like, especially in retrograde, it's like, what's going to happen? And I know that you've been doing well, first of all, where are you joining us from today?
From the island of Maui in Hawaii.
And you just got there just a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, or?
I just got back from BC about a week ago. Just over a week ago, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I wish she would have just tucked me into her suitcase and took me with her. Yeah, we really want to go to Hawaii, my beloved Tony and I. So today we're talking about rising in, your company is called Goddess Rising, and we're going to be talking about rising in leadership and everything that I just said. But I'm always really curious as to what your life was like before you started, Goddess Rising, and what was your life like? What kind of gave you those signs and signals that this was going to be your work?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I wish there was something that was, well, I guess there kind of is. In my experience, I feel like every step was truly leading me to this time without me realizing it. And so I've come from a background in studying Chinese medicine and body work and energy work. So I used to be a healing arts practitioner in that way for a while, which led me into more of the yogini practices, which led me to really coming in deeper with the priestess arts and the goddess mysteries that had really been a part of my life through the teachings of the earth for a long time, but it was more something that was just in my private life. And there came a point, I think it was not that long ago now in retrospect, I believe it was in 2012. It was January 1st of 2012. And I really had a huge experience of affirmation when offering this workshop for women on New Year's Day to really create this powerful, this powerful year that was coming. All of the, the hype or the prophecies about 2012, and this is a really powerful year. So it was during that time, during that workshop, that I was very clearly guided and affirmed that yes, wow, okay, now everything that I've done thus far is actually now geared specifically for women's empowerment through sisterhood, because it was a workshop that was just for women, and it was really a calling to bring the sisters together, to bring women together. And this was actually in India. So that was the poignant moment for me, and ever since it's just been really gateway after another, just opening for truly listening to how I'm really meant to serve, essentially. Yeah.
Amazing. I know it's so interesting to follow the timeline that, you're working through, like you said, the medicine, the Chinese medicine. So tapping into the physical, and the earth as well, and how that relates to our body. And same here, with holistic nutrition and then the healing arts and then yoga, the body and moving healing through the body. And I thought it was really quite interesting that you said in my private life, like you had these other things you were doing in your private life. And I wonder how many people, how many women and men too, if they're listening, are still in that place where, and that's totally okay, of doing these things like, because I know for me, I was like, what are people going to think about me when I start talking about this? And, and then I was like, when did I ever care about that before? Because I was always a rebel. And, but you said priestess arts. Could you explain a little bit about what that is? Because I'm really curious about that word in particular, because this is still new ground for me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so there's a few different ways that I guess this could be shared, but essentially, when we think into or feel into right now as being a woman, and the very gift that all women have, whether we're in our bleeding years or we're not, or whether we have all of our female parts or not, is the power of the womb space. And when we look to the difference between, quote unquote, a priest or priestess, one's, male, one's female, not that it has to matter, but the differentiation is that being a woman is our womb space, and our womb space representative of the chalice. And so the chalice being able to, when we think of the chalice, it's the cup and it's the bowl, it's the vessel that sits inside of us as our womb space. And that's truly our ability to hold. It's our ability to be filled. And so in essence, we can think of, priestess as asking ourselves, what are we filling our cups with? What are we filling our chalice with? And essentially that being filling our chalice with the connection that we have with source, with God, with goddess, with nature, however it is that you personally connect, and really utilizing that as then ways to offer and serve. So the chalice gets filled, and then we get to offer the chalice. So the priestess really is the archetype and the arts of how we fill ourselves in our presence, being fully present without the mind, into that place of stillness where then we're able to really be in our, I guess I could say, our most authentic nature, in the presence of our most authentic nature and of love, so that we can bring in the gifts that are essentially within us and the wisdom that's also around us through nature with spirit, bring that into our bodies as the chalice, be with that, and then offering that to others in a way that will benefit all beings.
Wow. I mean, I'm just so happy you're here. That's all I have to say. Because I really was curious about that word. And interestingly enough, right before I thought, you know what, I'm going to draw some goddess cards, and the high priestess is the one that showed up.
Oh,
so, yeah, so wow. Awesome. And the other one is Vesta. And I am still, when I birthed this company, the Conscious Goddess, I had no idea what I was about to, open up to. And I want to let everyone know here that, first of all, you came on a radio show that I was doing before called Living Proof Radio with Grandmother Karina. You came as her guest. And I remember ever since then, I was following you, and I'm like, what is she doing? And I got on your email list, which is goddessrising.org, by the way, if you all want to go there and check it out. And so I already kind of knew about you. And then all of a sudden, about 3 months ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to do her Moon Sister Temple. And I'll go into that a little bit later because I want to get into our topics today. But when we talk about that at the end of the show, definitely I want to share my experience so far with that. Whoa. It's pretty full on. So same for me, working with nutrition and then the body, and I'm doing, 5 rhythms dance, which is moving the body. And And then also, and then I was really spiritual and up here. And then, shamanism, clunked me back down to earth. And that was really important. So I can sort of see, we're all sort of on this path, as we're awakening. So let's get into our topic today. You were talking a little bit, and I didn't read your bio for a reason. If you want to read more about Achintya, you can go to theconsciousgoddess.com and go to the Conscious Goddess Hour. Of course, go to our website and read all about her. But I can tell that I'm really eager to get into the topics here. So, explain to us what you mean by, goddess rising in leadership, woman as the warrioress, the sorceress and the empress, I guess starting with the warrioress.
Ooh, okay. Woo! I know. I'm loving it too. I'm feeling really excited to share about this because it's very alive in myself, and I believe, and I'm seeing it alive in women, and I'm seeing it alive on the planet, and sort of what we're growing into as a collective. And so I just want to share about, women rising in leadership, and really the powerful opening of a new era and redefining what leadership is for every woman, because I believe that there's essentially this place that we're awakening to and moving out of that leadership is just this one patriarchal view, and that it is essentially the triangle with just one person at the top, and that's it. And there's definitely value to that in many ways, but it's not the whole picture. And so I believe what we're moving away from is really in leadership together. So that's really in the work that I share in the world. This is a huge piece. We're rooted in what is our sisterhood creed. And so that's how we're able to really be with one another and support one another as women, so that we are all rising in our gifts. We are all coming back to, the shape of the circle, in the sense that even though there may be one person facilitating in the circle and then it changes, that every single person that comes and is present is valued, is honored as having wisdom, because we are all connected, that we all have unique gifts which are essentially really needed on the planet right now. And so leadership also, oftentimes, I believe, from what I've experienced with hundreds of women recently, is, this idea of leadership being only in a specific box. It only looks like it if I'm doing this work, or if I'm outside of the house. I've had so many mothers recently share with me about, based sort of this, like, well, who am I to be a leader? And I have to just say, wait a second. Okay, you're a mother, right? Yes. Okay, you are the queen of leadership. You are raising a child, and that little child, is looking up to you. You are guiding their life. And so it's such an empowering way to validate what women are already doing. And because there's really this, I guess, this hybrid right now of being wanting to be the mother and the career woman, and how do we then merge the two? How do we be the priestess and the mother at the same time? How do we be the career woman and the mother? And so, that's something that every woman, it's her journey, and whatever her journey is and her choice, is to be honored, because leadership looks so different for all of us. And so it's really in that context that I want to bring forth what leadership is. So it's really an inclusive conversation. It's not limited, and it's not, doesn't only have to look one way, but essentially we're all leaders of our own lives. And so when we put that on, it's like, okay, yes, we need to be really responsible for, how we are leading our lives. And then if we are leading in and what areas of our life are we leading? And what I think is so beautiful about that too is, how the leader gets to be the student, and the student gets to be the teacher, and looking, it's like, okay, yes, I'm in leadership maybe in this area of my life, and I'm not in this, and that's nice. I'm just going to receive right now. So anyhow, in that context of leadership, there really is these three archetypes that have just come to me pretty recently and saying, like, yes, like, we need to dive into this more. Like, let's bring this through. So the Warrioress is
okay.
The first one. So you go.
Yeah, one sec, because first of all, if you're just tuning in now, and I'm trying to be a good hostess here. If you're tuning in now, we're speaking with Achintya Devi, and she is with us from Hawaii right now. And my name is Tammra, and you're watching the Conscious Goddess Hour. And yes, today we are talking about women rising, goddess rising in leadership. And like, if you're just hopping on now, I mean, definitely go back and listen to the beginning, because there was some powerful stuff there as to what is leadership and how does that look. And it's simply, to me, it's leadership. It's not women's leadership. It's like you said, it's inclusive. And so we're going to be talking about women as Warrioress, Sorceress, and Empress. And you were just talking, and I got a little bit sad when you talked about the mothers that are not feeling like a leader. And really, that landed on me for a moment, and I felt really sad, because when did the belief that, you know what I'm getting at, when did that belief enter into our lineage and our timeline? That really landed on me, because I don't have my own children, and I do work with a lot of moms as well, and I do feel that they feel powerless. And so you're like, you're a guy, and I'm the same way. I'm like, what? If I'm like, it would be the hugest honor for me to have, a child looking to me for that, that guidance. And unfortunately, I'm a coach as well. So I have always that, I'm a mother. Yeah. So thank you for saying that. And interestingly, an archetype card that I picked, I'm like, wait a second here. I'm looking down at my cards. So, okay, let's carry on. Please tell us a little bit more about the Warrioress.
Okay, great. Well, so yeah, I feel what's this amazing distinction too is when we have sort of the S's on them, we are working with, Warrioress, Sorceress, Empress, because we are working with the feminine aspects of these archetypes. So we're essentially, we can say too, it's the lunar aspect. So, it's interesting because, in society right now, it's very touchy sometimes, I believe, to, talking about the differences between male and female, talking about the differences between, masculine and feminine. And there is great value in that. And also sometimes it can create more separation. But for the distinction of this particular conversation, why it's important is because these are the feminine principles which have been lacking on our planet that are needed now, so that the priest and the priestess are together, so that the emperor and the empress are ruling together, so that the warrioress and the warrior are together, so that the sorcerer and the sorceress are together. So we're honoring all aspects, the gifts of the sun, the gifts of the moon, the gifts of the masculine and the feminine that are in all beings. So when we look to the warrioress, sometimes honestly this word, I'm like, warriors, it has the word war in it. And I'm like, oh, so it's like, there's that stigma that's there too. But when we go underneath it, and it's almost like, for me anyhow, right now, there's sort of this umbrella of warrioress. And what is the warrioress? The warrioress is the protectress. She's the guardian. She is the one who, if, attacked, is going to preserve, is going to protect her cubs. It's the lioness who is going to protect her family, if there is danger. So if we look to right now, if this is so alive in my heart right now, if we look to what's happening in North Dakota and with the proposed pipeline, and at this moment on this day, you know, it's known right now still that it's been halted, but it hasn't stopped. And what's taking place, you know, right now is, you know, some people have said, you know, okay, it's a protest, and others are saying, no, you know, we're here to protect. And essentially, I think that that is such, it's so alive for me in my heart, where we're looking to the First Nations lands that have been already, you know, throughout history, that's a whole other long interview, but have been really destroyed and have not been honored and have been taken away. And so when we look to right now North Dakota, and that those are sacred tribal lands, and the potential of that pipeline creating huge destruction and, you know, poisoning and killing of future generations, it's very real. You know, it's a very real thing. And so, you know, this is where I get, it's like, here it is. Here's the Warrioress is able to feel and then to act from that place. So to protect water, to protect the earth. So she's here to protect. She's also here, you know, these questions inside of us. Okay, what is so dear to my heart that I am willing to, you know, put my life on the line? And when we look to what's happening in the world, there's the warrioress inside of each of us. I believe that, you know, it's so important for us to have this distinction and ask, what am I saying yes to? And then what am I saying no to? So it's like, I'm saying yes to protecting. I'm saying yes to guardianship. I'm saying yes to guarding the sacred waters of the earth, because I know that this is my life, and not only my life, the life of all beings, the life of humanity and Mother Earth herself. So this aspect of the warrioress comes through at a time right now where I believe in our leadership, we get to really ask these questions for ourselves in our own lives, in our own ways. You know, what is so meaningful for us that we're now, we can take action on. And that action, you know, can be in so many different ways. And one of the hugest, biggest ways when we think of, you know, protecting is prayer. What is your prayer? Because when we're working with the warrior and the warrioress, oftentimes, you know, that is, you know, like out on the battlefield, so to speak. But that can also be in our homes, in our prayers, in our connection to one another, because we're taking a stand together to really say, no, like, this is not okay, you know, or yes, this is what I'm standing for. So depending on what context you're looking at it. And it's a way for us to really create the boundaries that we need in our own lives. So if we're leading in our own lives and we have felt, you know, perhaps that, you know, speaking with this woman a couple of weeks ago, you know, at work, where she doesn't feel valued and she's, you know, experiencing, I guess you could say, less than empowering, people speaking of her in less than empowering ways. It's like, for her to be, you know, it's like, okay, well, what is your no here and what is your yes here? Because she felt like something wanted to be done. So it's sort of, when we get this call to action, something must be done. Because of what is so dear in my heart. That is where the warrioress comes in, and we get to explore. You know, there's so many tools that the warrioress has. Our prayers, our songs, our dances, the bow and the arrow, being able to look at our goal and have our eye on the goal, and with that arrow in really clear focus, begin to take action in, you know, in our guided way. You know, then there's the sword, and that sword being, you know, really cutting through what it, you know, what is truth here, what is not truth here. You know, what really is the clarity, you know, the sword of clarity, so that we can act in a way that is truly in accordance with what's going on from the guidance of our heart. So she's alive, and I believe that she is, you know, she's really growing right now in our collective. So that is essentially, you know, the warrioress and why she's so needed right now.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I'm feeling that a lot. I'm like, yeah, those are the questions I'm asking. Lately, it's been, what do I stand for? What do I stand for? It's honestly been the question I've been asking myself the most for the last probably 3 months. And what's, I'm getting lots of goosebumps. What's being shown to me and where I'm being guided. And of course, when I remember, I remember going through a breakdown, and then out of that, or even going back even further, like 20 years ago when I started working in a health food store and in a deli, and and I started learning about holistic nutrition and well-being for the planet and for humanity. I was pissed off. I was angry. So I could see, like, that it can come in with some anger too. And of course, that's one of the, doing my own work, and timeline being one of my favorite tools, is usually the anger is the overarching one. It's the one that usually pops up first.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, Tammra, because really, so many times as women, we so in the sort of grander view of society, it's not as accepted as much if women are angry. If we're angry, we're considered bitches. I don't know if I'm to say that, but yet if men are angry, it's like, it's their nature. And then if women, are sad and crying, that's accepted. But if men do, like, it's not accepted as much. And so there's this double standard, of just like, okay, like where can we shift here now? And also my firm belief of, and my own experience of, what is angriness so much? It's like oftentimes that anger has equal amount of sadness with it, because it is something that we love so much. So we take the waters of the earth right now. It's like, that is one of the things for me that I love the most is Mother Earth and our waters. And so it pisses me off. I get so angry, but at the same time, I'm also sad. It's both of these. So it's like, how do we harness that then? And that anger, using that anger as fuel, because the anger isn't bad. The anger is there for a reason, and for us to really be like, okay, yes, I accept this anger. And a lot of times as women, we've been culturally trained to suppress the anger, that's not okay. And how much of that can really get stuck down inside before there's an explosion. So it's like, okay, I'm getting angry about this, and I'm getting angry because this is not okay. This is not okay that these waters can be polluted, and that there's danger here, and that there is, the sacred is not being preserved and is not being honored. It's like, so it's like that anger is needed as well. It's like, okay, what are you angry about? What's taking place on the planet, and like, or inside your own life? Really, it's like, what, and then how can we be with that? How can we be with that first, and then act from that place?
Yes, awesome. Well, I've been taking lots of notes, so I have some great questions to journal with. Well, because I've been working with you for so long, I'm like. And so and the questions that you offer to, through your work online. And okay, so let's carry on so we can get through everything.
Okay.
So go back and write those questions out and journal with them, because they're so powerful. And I know that it took me a bit to sit down and actually start answering those questions that you so kindly gave us. And holy bean cakes, it was like, woo! So I've been moving and shifting a lot of stuff. And that's because I'm feeling called to bigger work, and I have for a long time. And so I want to be with strong, especially because I'm going into that feminine energy as well. I was raised by my father. So, I've got that masculine energy. I've got it. It's integrated. I mean, talking about being, people thinking that I'm a bitch, it's been done. So anyways, I'm finding my softer sides. And of course, being a practitioner, I've learned a lot about how to communicate. So awesome. Tell us a little bit more about Sorceress. I want to know about her.
Okay. Another one. Here we go. So the Sorceress. Well, first of all, let's take the word sorceress. Source. And that's a huge contemplation right there. So source, what is source? Where is source in us. Over the last hundreds, thousands of years, through the lens of which our society is in currently still and breaking through, is this idea that source is outside of ourselves. And that is true in some ways. It's like, yes, you know, look at our oceans, look at our forests, you know, yes, there is source outside of us, but the source is inside of ourselves. We are all part of source. So when we look to Sorceress, it's really this place of connecting with source so that we're able to wield our unique creative powers to create a specific outcome. So when we look to sorceress or witch, you know, so many awful connotations here. Awful connotations. You know, and especially, you know, coming around the corner here with Halloween, and how the witch has been turned into, you know, over this last while, this, you know, this ugly old woman who's evil essentially, and who casts awful spells. And, you know, that's such a very narrow view of what the sorceress and the witch is. And, you know, with that ridicule of that, you know, it's a very disempowered view of the sorceress, of the witch. And when we put it into context of what the empowered view is and who she really is, you know, she is like the warrioress, so deeply devoted to source that she is acting from a place of really honoring her own gifts inside to benefit all beings, to benefit her life, to benefit her family. So when we think of some of the different you know, ways in which the sorceress acts, we have, you know, one of the things that's there is, you know, when we think of the spell, right? So spelling. The spell is how we create our communication, when we're speaking, how we're reading, what we're creating. So the spell becomes very powerful in the words that we write, in the words that we choose, in the words that we speak, in the words that we sing, because they are creating our reality. And well, as you know, Tammra, and in my work, that I'm really passionate about the moon. Mostly everything is coming through the lens of the moon. And the sorceress wields her power from those creative cycles, and essentially all of, you know, in the warrioress and the empress and the sorceress are sourcing from the cycles within, because there's a time for action. There's a time for stillness. There's a time for speaking. There's a time for listening. There's a time for giving. There's a time for receiving. And as we remember that in our own lives based on our own lunar cycle, and we're able to really understand that our power is very different at different phases of the moon if we're in our bleeding years. Hallelujah. And if we're beyond our bleeding years, that, you know, women as crone have synthesized all of this and are carrying all of the 4 cycles within and are able to tune into those at any moment. So when we bring forth, you know, the sorceress in her ability to really create through her spell, so this is one avenue of the sorceress, we get to really look at that for our own lives. Like, oh, wow, okay, how do I want to create my reality? And how do I want to be a participant in this greater dream of living in a world where everybody is respected, where all cultures are celebrated and appreciated, where we can truly have an experience of really being at peace and in love with one another and the outside world. Will that come in our lifetime? I pray it be so. And do we know? We don't know. And yet when we look at this and come to, you know, from that macro to the micro, to our own lives, you know, what do we have control over? Well, we only really have control with how we are with our own selves and with source. So the sorceress is able then to come within and then act outwardly if needed. So one of my favorite things to do, and to sort of illustrate part of the sorceress, is that, on the new moons, we come together to really be in the stillness of, and the power of that particular dark moon, where we're in a more retreat-like place within ourselves, to be able to vision how it is that we wish to really experience the next lunar cycle, and feel that in our own bodies, not just in our minds, but actually bring that into our bodies. So for example, if it's okay, well, this next month I want to bring a lot of romance or joy into my life. It's like, okay, let's bring that feeling and that sensation inside of my body, inside of our bodies right now. Because when we do that, that is a magnet to the universe for that to actually come towards us. That's how, the laws of the universe work. So then when we also feel that, and then when we speak these words out loud, that's another way of us affirming that is what we're creating. So those are, just some of the ways in which the sorceress is, plays out, and is really a calling for us right now as women to bring source back into ourselves, back into our bodies. Where the source of our power is in our changing nature. So it's not always going to look, one way. And essentially that's when we think of her looking glass or her globe, her mystery ball, that can be representative of the moon and how the moon shifts and changes inside of us.
Oh, it's so good. You're so full of nuggets. It's amazing. I'm like, I can't even keep up with it. I'm like, I gotta go back and write more notes. What's really, really awesome is from working with you, I really got, I started listening really closely around, I put on an event, as you know, called the Conscious Goddess Festival, which was just like, hang on, like, I just feel like I'm holding on to like this rocket. And right before that, I got this message that women wanted to come together in my community in Squamish. And so, yeah, we have a new moon gathering. We call it the New Moon Goddess Circle every month. And I'm like, I was like, no, I can't, take on another thing. And then I was like, what? This is so, it's been such an amazing journey for all of us. And everything that you provide here is what we're starting to do together. And we're renting a place downtown, and it's awesome. We spent 3 hours going around and talking and eating and having a really great experience.
That's fabulous. So happy that you're doing that, and that we are doing that as women across the globe right now, remembering and resurrecting the power of the moon, so that we can really be in her rhythms and in our own rhythms, and we're each of us perhaps in slightly different rhythms, but that's important. That it's my belief that our feminine power lies in our rhythm.
Yes, and as a teacher and a trainer, that we're taught this very structural, strict, this is how you do business. And I got to this point where I was completely burnt out, and it keeps happening. And I get to this place and I'm like, this is not working for me. And so, that's something I'm really passionate about teaching now, is how to find your rhythm as an entrepreneur, and learning about these cycles, and learning even about the retrograde. And a friend, just sent me a calendar with like the good retrograde days and the bad ones, and it's like, oh my goodness. So there's even more to learn here. That's why I felt like that today. And then yesterday I felt like I was like I just felt like energized from morning until night. It was almost hard for me to fall asleep. Like when I was chatting with you late at night, I was like, I'm hoping to be at bed at this time, but I am so, like you said it in one of your live Facebook broadcasts yesterday, you said it feels all kind of like fuzzy electrical, sort of circuits coming out of us. That's how I felt yesterday. I was like, man, woman, that's exactly how I felt. Yeah. So I was like, and let's bring it in. You're like,
we're connected to source.
yes.
You know, that is it. And it's like, if that is alive and that's what's happening, that's the gift. That's the medicine that's being offered for us. Instead of that resistance, oh, I should be in bed by now. It's like, well, this is what's happening. And there's, you know, and there's a reason for it. And I mean, especially, in this moment, yes, of, you know, between the eclipses right now, which that was what that broadcast was that Tammra was talking about. It's really like, how do we navigate through these times that are so shifting, and we're experiencing the full spectrum, you know, over and over again in an hour.
And I know, and I don't know if you're saying this, but you're like, well, last year was crazy. Oh my God, it's crazier this year. So I'm really still doing a lot of surrendering and letting go. And like you said, creating boundaries and being okay with that, you know. And so we have about 10, 15 minutes. I would love to hear about the Empress. Tell us a little bit more about the Empress.
Okay, the Empress. Okay, let's get focused here on the Empress. Okay, so the Empress, oh, how amazing. She, you know, she is really coming through in our collective right now, because she's really here as an offering and a reflection to us of, you know, asking ourselves, what is sovereignty? You know, what does that word mean for me, and how is that in my own life? And, you know, for me, when I feel into sovereignty, you know, that is truly the reclamation and the understanding and the feeling, to feel inside that, yes, I am actually whole, I am complete within myself. I don't need to have anything else, you know, outside, you know, validate that for me. And from that place of being, you know, whole and complete into oneself, we're able to really have wonderful and clear, empowered exchange and like relating is the word that really comes here with the Empress, because the Empress is relating to herself, but she's relating to these cycles as the Sorceress. You know, if you're familiar with the tarot cards, which is a very ancient, powerful practice, when we look to the Empress, her feet are connected to the earth. And by her feet is a crop of wheat. So she is connected with the cycles and the seasons of the crops. And she sits to be able to, you know, on her throne, to really listen to these cycles, to listen to the cycles that are taking place within her. And so then how she can lead her empire. You know, so it's like with our own lives, how are we leading our home? How are we leading our life? How are we leading our business? How are we leading our empire? And, you know, one of the huge pieces about the Empress is, you know, is her crown. And the crown is beautiful as it is. It's like, it's that beauty of being connected to source. It's being connected to the cycles. It's being connected to feeling empowered within one's own being. And that beauty then is also, you know, on the head. It's connected to the heavens, to the cosmos, to what is taking place in the different worlds, so to speak, listening between the veils of the spirit world and this physical world. And its weight then is essentially the responsibility, the weight of responsibility to guide and lead her people. And so that is huge. And some of the gifts that I believe she's offering to us at this time, when we feel into the Empress, it's like, and the choices that we're making, is that something that's, you know, going to serve the long term? Is that going to serve those crops of wheat? Or is this just a short term, you know, band-aid for a particular problem that's happening? So she's really asks us, okay, where can I be patient in my life? You know, where can I actually listen and sit and feel into something before then racing and acting? So if if we imagine the Empress and how she moves, she's moving at a pace that is connected with the earth and connected with her own breath, so that she's able to truly be aware of everything in her empire and her surroundings, so that she's able to make the choices from an empowered place within herself, connected to all of her empire, connected through her heart, connected to being in relationship. So the Empress is not just sitting on a throne, getting fed grapes or something, although she does deserve that. She does deserve a foot rub, because she is truly having to be very responsible, to act in accordance, to be able to manage and to preserve her empire, which then comes back to the moon cycles, which is, okay, what needs to be grown here? What needs to come into bloom here? What needs to be destroyed? What needs to actually be removed, sort of in the weeding? What needs to be preserved? So all these questions, relate to our own self, our own lives, and then how we're serving in our greater communities. So that's her, and that's some of her.
Yeah. Oh wow. I mean, there's so much good juice here, and I really want to acknowledge everyone who's actually here with us live. We actually have a little bit of chatting going on in the chat room, and so thank you so much to Maria for sharing with us. And I can see that we have like 11 people here. So thank you so much for being here with us live. I appreciate that. I didn't even say thank you at the very beginning. And we really want to acknowledge you for your time and sharing with us, because like Achintya said, your energy and your gifts are like here energetically with us. And so I believe that everyone that's listening right now is fully 100% meant to hear all of this. I'm getting mega goosebumps, because that's one of the hashtags that I use in my company is share your gifts. And I'm really, and that's why I host events, because I know that there's so many in just this corridor, the Sea to Sky corridor, from Vancouver to Pemberton, as like mega gifts. And I want to keep reading, or creating a fertile ground for those things to blossom. And so, I wanted to share a little bit about what you have coming up before we do have about 10 minutes actually, now for sure, what you have coming up, what you're offering here today. And yeah, maybe we could even open it up for some questions if we have time.
Yeah. And you said that you also wanted to share about your experience too. So I want to leave you some.
Oh yes. You know what? I'm going to share that right now. So Achintya has the MoonSister Temple. And what do you call it?
It's the MoonSisters Temple. So it's part of our Goddess Rising Mystery School. We are a global sisterhood, and this particular online forum is our MoonSisters Temple.
Yes, and I've been watching you develop it, because of course I'm always looking as to how I want to model things and what I'm seeing working, and what I'm most attracted to. So thank you for doing the work. I remember talking to you last year and inviting you to the festival, and you were like, oh my God, there's so much work to do. And I was like, it can feel overwhelming, because I feel the same way right now. Like it's like opening. And so, yes, some of the questions that you asked, really, we were focusing a lot on Aphrodite. And of course, I'm still learning about all the goddesses and all of the archetypes and all of the things that play a role in this work. And so, I had
for all of us.
Yes. Yeah. And, and I was like, and I'll be really honest, like even shamanism, I was raised like completely without religion. And so anything that had anything to do with like even Buddhism and faith, and that was related to that, I had this program running in my mind that was like somehow, there was something wrong with it. And so I am open to all of it now. And I think there's great learnings in all of it. And so the questions that you asked were really deep. Really, I mean, they were simple questions, but they took me to these incredible levels. And there has been something that has been so hard for me to face and so scary that, like I said, I experienced that breakdown around 2006 with complete anxiety, panic attacks, and all of it, my childhood trauma came up. And there's still some pieces that I'm that I'm, that I'm still afraid to face. And I thought that I was good until I answered your questions. And I was like, oh my gosh, I believe I teach this. I'm a practitioner. I work with the subconscious mind. And I know that our subconscious mind will protect us until we are ready, until we find our teacher, until we find our practitioner, until we find our tribe and our people and our community. And for me, that is so important to have and feel safe and be in a community where I can express myself wholly and feel supported. So that has been my experience with that. And and being able to come into that field and know that I'm safe, know that I can ask anything and share these vulnerable pieces of myself. I mean, I could probably write you like a 3-page testimonial, just from the 3 months that I've been in it. And honestly, I'll be really honest, at the beginning, I was really resistant because I was like, this is going to take time. And I was like, if I don't give myself this time and go there, how can I possibly move forward with my work? Like, how could I feel in alignment and authentic? And that's been my calling for so long, is to be really open and vulnerable and truthful, and whatever anybody asks me, to be okay with that. And until I'm completely okay with that, I know that there is the deep work to do. And I have great tools that I can go even further with what's coming up. And I have this amazing partner in my life that is fully supportive. And I was like, oh my goodness, hi honey, I know you just got home, but I'll give you 10 minutes, but I gotta share with you because this is really, it affects us, obviously. Mm-hmm. When it comes to sensuality and sexuality, and you even talked about eroticism, those were bad words in my life growing up. Those were, you got in trouble for that. You go to jail for that, that was my association. So I was listening to something this morning that talked about how change happens when we change our reaction and our response to how we assimilate to things in our environment. And that it was like, yes, that's the work we're doing. So I wanted to share that. So share a little bit more about what it is you're offering, because I know you're going into a new quarter, right?
Yes. So for those that were asking too, and I just saw it on the chat, it's like, what were the questions? So I'll share what exactly sort of the context in which Tammra's speaking of. It's more than just the questions, but those essentially are such a key part. So every season there is we have a collective. Our global sisterhood has a collective, and it is a temple space. It is a sanctuary for women. So all these questions, everything that we've been talking about, the Warrioress, the Empress, the Sorceress, it's our sacred sanctuary space for us to be able to explore all of this in our own lives in a real safe way. So essentially, it's an aspect of the mystery school, going into the feminine mysteries, our own mysteries of our body, of these archetypes that are coming through, that are alive on the planet, and how we're able to really explore ourselves in a intellectual way, in an emotional way, in a spiritual way, in sisterhood, where we are simultaneously here as a stand to step out of competition with each other as women and into collaboration, to step outside of this, hierarchy and into this place of truly being able to empower one another, because it's my belief right now on the planet that we need each other right now, and our power lies in our unification. When we stay separate and isolated in that way, there's no energy there. The energy comes when we get together, and the energy comes when we come into the power that is living through all of us, the rhythm of the moon that is moving through us. So we connect at the new moon and in the full moon per quarter. So we open the temple doors, for women to come in for that quarter, and then the quarter closes. And so we're in that sealed space for 3 months, and that journey of 3 months. So it consists of our new moon and our full moon rituals, along with what takes place is, my screen just did something funny, but I think I'm still there.
Oh, you are. I'm showing your website.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what's going on. Sorry, there's the screen share. Okay. And those are the ways in which we're getting together live. And then also next quarter, I've added in goddess office hours with me. So we can come into our Facebook group live and actually connect and have dialogue in that way for any questions. And then you get to have what I call the waxing and waning moon bundles, which is essentially for you to have, and this is where, when Tammra was saying about the questions, there's a meditation and some questions during the waxing and the waning phases to just really have some time with yourself for deeper reflection of whatever it is in that lunar cycle we're focused on. So for example, in October, it'll be the Warrioress, and all of our moon rituals in the growing phase and in the releasing phase are focused on the Warrioress in our own lives. And so this quarter is really devoted to rising in our feminine leadership together and to explore the deeper ways in which the Warrioress is asking us to look at, and how we can truly be the sorceress in our own life, how we redefine that and why she's so important now, which we were getting into, and being the empress of your own life. So each of us is there, and there's Devin taking the steps in the labyrinth. We're each taking, steps right now of so much shift and change. And it's really the call right now for all of us as women to rise in our gifts, to rise in our leadership, and to this quarter, as we move into this season, in the Northern Hemisphere, of coming more internal. We're going to hold that frequency or that place. And the women who are in the Southern Hemisphere, they're coming into spring. So we're going to have this dynamic place of how the Warrioress, the Sorceress, and the Empress are moving in rhythm with the seasons and in the moon cycles of our own life. So when you step into the MoonSisters temple, you stay as long as you want, and then if you want to leave after a quarter, then you leave after a quarter. So we do different themes per quarter, so that we're really alive with the rhythm of the season and of the moon and what's taking place. So yeah, this is the site, and it's really, I'm so excited for this next quarter. It's like,
you know what? I was gonna opt out, but I'm opting back in because I feel what you're saying here. And so it's goddessrising.org, and you go to the at the top, it says the Moon Temple. And I'm showing it here on the video, but for those listening, go there, goddessrising.org. And I know you were going to offer a little gift to our listeners and those who are watching today.
Yes. So we have, there's sort of two parts to this because of the area that we are in our season right now. A chart, a quick moon phase chart, so that you're able to have this simple tool in your life. You can print it, put it on your fridge, keep it, somewhere visible for you to have a quick reference to the dates of the new moons and the full moon, so that you can truly be consistently, remembering where the moon is at. So how you can remember how the moon is living through you. And because we're near the end of this year, if you want to receive it, then you'll also get the one for 2017 when it comes out as well.
Okay, so how do they get that?
So for that, you just go to goddessrising.org, and then at the top there, you'll see an inbox, and you just put your name and email there, and then it will be sent to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I believe that was the first thing that you sent to me. I think you even sent it to me through Facebook or something. You need this. And I was like, okay. Well, it was so wonderful for you to be here today. And I was like, do you want to come on? I've just started this show. And you're like, yes, can we do it on this date? Because of this. And I know tomorrow is the big lunar eclipse, and all of the goodness that comes with that. You can find Achintya on so what's your Facebook page, because you're doing live streaming there now too, and your group too, and share your group as well.
Yeah, so for those that are here, we have there's sort of two aspects in the Facebook realm. Our Facebook page is Goddess Rising 13 Moon Sisterhood. And that's the page, you know, where you see the live streaming and the different memes and the posts and the writings and the sharing on the page. And then there's our group. So then we have a group that I think we're 5,000 women in the group right now. And that is Goddess Rising Sisterhood, just those 3 words. So that's the group, and that's where there's more interaction. So that's where all of us are coming to connect. This is the public group, you know, and then in the different offerings and the different, you know, trainings, we have other specific Facebook groups for that. But this is sort of our overarching, you know, large main group, Goddess Rising Sisterhood, and absolutely welcome you and women to be able to, you know, connect with women around the world as we are in these deeper conversations in our own lives and with each other, and in rhythm with the moon and the power of our hearts and our wombs connected. Truly, this sacred sanctuary space devoted to us rising together and to be able to feel safe to express what is taking place and alive on our own journeys.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's what I was looking for. I'm always, you know, we can go out there and we can, you know, research on Google, you know, all these things, and do a lot of self-learning. For those people, though, I really feel like Achintya, she's done her work. Look at all the, I mean, I just looked at your website. I'm like, it's amazing. But you're really active with your groups. And that's what I really love. Like, you really, you know, you create time to go in and be with the people that are with you. And you really do, you know, when you were talking about the leadership being inclusive, you really do see that and bring that out in everyone. And, you know, I love working with you because it keeps me accountable. And that's why I want to join again. And even though I'm going into this shamanism immersion with the woman that I interviewed last week, Juliette Woods, you know, I was like, okay, it's going to be too much. And at the same time, it's like, well, I'm doing this work. We have to do solo work. Well, this is the solo work. Like, we're doing the group work, but we're going in and we're also, you know, like doing the meditations and doing the journaling. And that's the piece that I probably wouldn't do necessarily if I didn't have those reminders and I didn't have the group, you know, popping up and, you know, women sharing and going, this is what happened when I did that. And I'm like, oh, yes. And I tune into my heart and it's like, okay, I have this, you know, great little sacred space that I've created. I've manifested what I've wanted. And now it's time to show up and rise into it. So thank you.
Absolutely. I love that, Tammra. I love it. And it's such a key piece of just, you know, it's like, there's all these different parts that are, that you can do and you may not do, you know, it's like, here's what it's like. Here's what's being offered on the plate. It's like, well, yep, I'll take the strawberries and the cheese, but I'll leave the crackers for now. And it's like, whatever feels empowering and supportive for you, really, you know, so it's designed so that it can really be little tastes consistently instead of something huge, you know, and then we're done. So it keeps us in the rhythm.
And yes, absolutely. And I have worked with a lot of different kinds of leaders and coaches and mentors and facilitators. And, you know, I really, you know, even the way you say the words, you give us so many great questions. You're teaching while you're sharing, even when you're doing your, when you were doing your, you know, we were doing the 999 portal. Whoa. I spent 2 hours like in, I don't know where I was, but it was amazing. By the time we were done, my altar was full and I was like, whoa, look what just came through. And I felt a massive shift in my physical health after that. But I don't even know how to say this. Like, I was sharing what was happening and you were bringing it in. And that's something that, you know, I do. It's really important that people feel heard. And so, yeah, it's not just you talking. You're really, you know, I even said something about my cat and you sent a little prayer to my cat, you know, and it was really cute. So you're real and I love you. Thank you so much for doing your work. If there's, you know, and I'm like Rachel, I feel called to share, you know, what it is you're doing with the world. And I hope in some way this touches somebody and they join in. And, you know, I've been a holistic health practitioner for a long time and I'm always looking for tools for my clients. And so, you know, it just, you know, it dawned on me. I'm like, this is everything I'm learning from you. It's coming into my practice and it's going through to my, you know, my clients, you know, people that I'm, you know, attracting and working with, but also my teams, my colleagues, my, you know, everyone. So thank you so much for this.
Emma, that's so huge. I want you to know I'm so grateful. I really receive you right now, and I'm so grateful likewise for your work in the world, and for how you are bringing forth such an authentic voice and your personal experience as well, to really be able to share and have inclusive leadership. And everything that you have shared just now with me is you're able to really speak from that place, because also you are in that place, and you are sharing from that place. So it's that reflection, and I really thank you, and I'm honored for your words and your heart, and I so feel you, and I want to simultaneously say thank you for having me today. Thank you for your voice and your unique pathways of leadership. So really, we are in this together, and for everybody listening, that we are all in this together in all of our unique flavors and ways of being and personalities, that we are truly rising together, and there's enough room for all of us and to shine our gifts, and it's so needed. So we want you to rise in your leadership, however that looks for you in your life. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you to Rachel from New Earth International. And everyone who joined us live, and anyone listening to the replay and watching the replay as well. So thank you so much, and blessings, everyone.
You're watching the Conscious Goddess Hour at Tammra Broughton on New Earth International, New Earth Broadcasting.